Hey guys, welcome to the 2911 podcast. My name is Iggy, and obviously, as you can see, Victoria is not here, and nothing happened. Everything is good. She did not move. We're good. But we just thought of switching it up for this video. Doing more of like a one-on-one type of thing, more personal. In another episode, she's gonna be doing one by herself as well. But for now, it's just me podcast, and yeah. So as you can tell by the title of the video, we're talking about this sad but true story behind Jesus. Now everyone knows about the cross. I mean, it's a symbol of Christianity. But I don't feel like a lot of us know what happened before the cross and what actually led up to the cross. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So to kick off, we're going to be starting in Matthew 26:2, where Jesus is talking to his disciples and he's telling them, as you know, Passover begins in 2 days, and the Son of Man, him, will be handed over to be crucified. And right here, Jesus highlights his foreknowledge, and he's foreshadowing his death. So when he's on the cross, there's no surprise that he's on there. He knew before, and he predicted it before, right? And Passover, keep in mind, Passover was a huge Jewish festival that brought hundreds of people. And just know that because it's going to be talked about later on in the video. And at the same time all this is happening, the high priest and the elders met at the residence of Caiaphas, which is also known as the high priest. And there they were plotting how to capture Jesus, how to arrest Jesus. But they didn't want to do it on Passover because Jesus back then was immensely popular, everyone seeing him as a prophet. So then the obvious thing to do, and they chose to do, was to arrest him secretly away from all the people, because then they would obviously hate, and a lot of hatred would go towards the priests, which they didn't want. So now Judas, which was one of the 12 disciples of Jesus, he goes up to the priest and he says, "How much money will you give me if I betray Jesus to you?" So then they threw 30 pieces of silver down on the ground. And then from that time on, Judas was looking for an opportunity to betray Jesus. So then they arranged to arrest Jesus at night away from the festival. So then they were able to seize him without causing a riot, so that no one would get heated and everything. So now the Last Supper. Everyone knows the picture about the 12 disciples. So there, Jesus is sitting with the 12 disciples. And then while they were eating, Jesus said to them, I tell you the truth, one of you will betray me. And every one of them was greatly distressed. I mean, can you imagine the Son of Man? And they knew that he was God, literally God in human flesh, telling them, one of you will betray me, but nobody knows who it is. So obviously they looked and asked, "Am I the one, Lord? Lord, am I the one? Like, is it me? Is it me?" As any other typical human would do. And then Judas asked, "Rabbi, am I the one?" And then Jesus said, "You've said it." Nowhere in the Bible does it talk about what Judas had going on his mind at that moment, but he must have been in, panic attack. Jesus literally said that I'm going to be the one betraying him, or maybe he already knew that because 30 pieces of silver kind of added up, but he was keeping it a secret, but we don't know. So now Jesus is praying in the Garden of Gethsemane. It's nighttime, and he brought Peter, James, and John with him. And then Jesus told them to stay awake for his moral support, because he's about to go through one of the worst, probably the worst death in all of human history, and also to witness his anguish and to prepare for future trials, such as them watching Jesus getting crucified and the temptation. And then while Jesus is there, he's praying, sweating blood, asking his Father to remove the cup of suffering, which is the crucifixion, not an actual cup. The first time I read this, I thought it was an actual cup, but no, it is the cross, the crucifixion, the cup of suffering. And then he says, "No, I'm going to submit to my will. I'm going to submit to the will of my Father." And do it. So then he led it up to his father and said, "It's not my will to be done, but yours." And Jesus is praying, sweating blood. I know. We all sweat. We get nervous and everything. Sweat, obviously. Hyperventilate. I mean, I searched this up. It's a thing. Sweating blood. And again, Jesus was 100% human, 100% God. So we had the same emotions that we would go through today. But you need to be in deep stress, deep anguish in order to sweat blood. So that's how stressed he was, because he knew the beating that he was going to be getting. And he knew what he was going to be going through. So then at the same time, a couple hours or minutes, I don't know when, but later on, Judas walks in with a bunch of soldiers that are armed with swords and clubs. And Judas gave the soldiers a pre-signal that you'll know which one to arrest when I kiss them on the cheek. So whoever I kiss on the cheek, arrest them. And this was the betrayal that Judas wanted for the 30 pieces of silver. So then Judas walks up to Jesus and kisses him on the cheek. And then right then and there, the Roman soldiers grabbed him, took him away, and arrested him right then and there. So now this is Jesus before the council, before the Pontius Pilate, Barabbas, Jesus, the whole scenery we all know. So this was at the council of the high priest. So the people that arrested Jesus brought him here, and which was the home of Caiaphas at the time, and where the religious leaders had gathered. And inside, the leading priests and the elders were trying to find witnesses to lie about what Jesus has said, so they blasphemy, so then they could put Jesus to death. And you may be asking, like, why would they be wanting people to lie about what Jesus said in order to put him to death? And I'll tell you why. Because in Leviticus 24:16, it says, whoever blasphemes in the name of the Lord must be stoned to death by the whole community of Israel. So then two men shout, I'm able tomorrow to destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days. And they took this one out of context because he wasn't talking about an actual temple. He was talking about himself. I will destroy the temple of God, meaning his body, die, the crucifixion, and rebuild it in 3 days, meaning his body, the resurrection in 3 days. And then the high priest told Jesus, well, aren't you gonna, answer these charges? What do you have to say for yourself now that they said that? So then Jesus he remained silent. He didn't say a word. And then the high priest demanded that Jesus would say, he said, I demand in the name of the living God, tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God. So then Jesus had said, you've said it. And in the future, you will see the Son of Man seated in the place of power at God's right hand and coming on the clouds of heaven. So then the high priest tore his clothing out of anger. And he said, blasphemy. Why do we need any other witnesses? You've all heard this blasphemy. What is your verdict? And then they said, guilty. They shouted, he deserves to die. So then they began to spit on Jesus and beat him with their fists. Slapped him and mocking every time, playing around with him pretty much, slapping him and slapping, and then saying, who hit you that time? You're playing around with Jesus. Now Jesus is before Pilate. This is the trial. So now the chief priests and the elders brought Jesus to the council. And it was the governors each year to release a prisoner, anyone they wanted. So this year, it was Barabbas, a notorious prisoner. And the Pilate said to the crowd, which one do you want me to release to you, Jesus or Barabbas? And then Pilate knew that the religious leaders arrested Jesus out of envy. So to keep that in mind, because it's going to explain why and what he said later on. And just when Pilate was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife came and told him, don't arrest that man. He's innocent. I had a dream about him last night, so don't do anything to him. So then Pilate is like, okay, this man is innocent. He knows he's innocent, and Barabbas is the one that should be arrested. So then Pilate says to the hundreds, probably thousands of crowd looking down, and which of these two do you want me to release to you? Crowd said Barabbas. And then the religious leaders were down there among the crowd, convincing them to release Barabbas so then Jesus could later then be crucified, because that was the only option back then. So then Pilate said, then what should I do with this Jesus guy who was called the Messiah? And they shouted, crucify him. And then Pilate said, what crime has he committed? And then they said, crucify him even louder. They wanted this guy to be dead immediately. And then Pilate kept on going, saw that he was getting nowhere, and then a mob was starting to evolve, a riot. So then he led the soldiers, told them to come, took Jesus away for a flog, and told them to get a flogged lead tipped whip, which was a whip which had a tip at the end. So then when you whip them, the flesh would come out. So then that's what they did. And now here, as you can see, the soldiers mocked Jesus, and they stripped him naked. And they put, in essence, they're going to dress him as a fake king. They put, what's it called? A scarlet robe on him. I blinked out. They put a robe on him, and then a crown of thorns, and then a reed stick, which was used as a scepter. But the crown of thorns show that he was like lesser power, and they put the thorns in his head, deep into his skull. So then blood was gushing out. And then with the reed skip, which was like those sticks that they have in those movies, the king. It was that. But instead of a scepter, it was a reed stick. So they grabbed it, whipped Jesus, hit him hard. And then they kept on doing the same thing, and then out of mockery, and then when they were tired of doing that, abusing Jesus, they decided to stop and then take off. They kept on saying, beating him, and said, "Hail, King of the Jews," because he was dressed up. They put him as a fake king, and "Hail, King of the Jews," as in like, you get it. And when they were tired, they took off the king clothes, and put his original clothes on. And then they led him to be crucified. So now they brought Jesus to Golgotha, which was known as the place of the skull. And there they, by the way, Jesus is up on the cross, put the nails in his hands. They couldn't do it on their hand because it couldn't hold the people. So they had to do it in their wrist. So then Jesus is there, out, naked. His flesh is all out. People in the Bible says they couldn't tell if he was man or woman. We've all seen bad. We've all seen people get hurt on the internet or something like that. And we're like, dude, we know that's a man. We know that's a woman. But they could not tell which gender this guy was. That's how bad they whipped him. And think about the worst open wound you've had. It's 10 times worse. This guy, nails in his hands. And then they put nails across his feet, between both feet. So then he would stay still. So then every breath, excruciating pain because you're going up and down, because that's what the natural human motion does. Excruciating pain, constant, and it's going on, and nighttime passes. And then Jesus is there on the cross, and the whole point of the cross was to be killed, but he wasn't dying. So then the Roman soldiers saw that, and then they took a spear, pierced his side, blood and water gushing out. That's as bad as it can, I feel, get, that is, horrible. Once you really think about it and understand the concept, there's some videos that talk about, how the crucifixion was, and what, all the placement and all the nails and everything. It's really cool. You have to look at it. But my question to you is, when Jesus is on this cross, by the way, I didn't mention, people are mocking him, and they were playing games for his clothes, because he's obviously up there naked, so his clothes have to be somewhere. So then the Roman soldiers are playing dice. They're playing a dice for his clothing, which one. They were playing games to see which one who would buy it and which one would get it. So Jesus is looking down. Can you imagine looking down and seeing that they're playing games, mocking him, and he's like, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. They know exactly what they're doing. They're crucifying an innocent man, but they don't know the ultimate thing, that they don't know what they're doing to this man. They don't know who this is and what is going to happen. So they're mocking him and playing games with him, and then they're laughing at him because they thought, he's just he can't do anything. Like, he could save other people, but he can't even save himself. And Jesus was there. Night passes. I said the thing. So after all this, Jesus died upon that cross, and then obviously rose 3 days later. But worst deaths in probably human history. And my question to you is, what's your response? Is it to acknowledge it at least, or give your life to him, or to just turn your back and pretend like nothing ever happened? Because he did this with Iggy in mind. All this suffering, he had Iggy in mind. All this suffering, he had the person across the screen's name in mind. Everyone that is going to walk this earth, he did that out of love. He didn't die on the cross because he had to. He died because he wanted to. That's the greatest love any human could ever offer or ever have. That's love like no one has ever seen. It's really crazy once you soak in on it and really grasp it. It's just something that's so prominent that happened in ancient history, and the fact that we still know it today, and there's testimonies, lives being changed because of what happened. Because now, the Holy Spirit is still alive and everything. But what's your response to all this? Really think about that, But that's the video. Yeah, pretty much. I'm really bad at the ending. Usually Victoria does this, but thank you for watching. I can't wait to see you in the next episode, and yeah. And if you have any recommendations or anything, leave them in the comments if you want to see in a future episode. But I'll see you guys. Bye.